This is Rick Rule from Rule Investment Media, sponsors of the 2024 Natural Resources Investment Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida. Whether you attend live in person in Boca Raton or from the comfort of your home via the live stream, these interviews are meant to help you allocate your time more efficiently. We'll have 50 hours of programming over 4 days, and there's no way that you can absorb all the information that we're going to give you in 50 hours. So the idea is to interview every sponsor before the conference so that you have the ability to reach out to sponsors either before or during the conference and maximize the benefit that you generate from the symposium. Please remember that every public company exhibitor at the symposium is owned in my personal accounts or in accounts that are managed and partially owned by myself. That is, of course, a conflict of interest, but it also guarantees to you that every public company exhibitor has been vetted. As part of this, as I say, we interview all of the exhibitors beforehand. Sean, first of all, as a shareholder, thank you for your efforts, at least indirectly on my behalf. And thank you, too, for your ongoing sponsorship of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Rick. Thank you very much for having me.
The business that you're engaged in, which is, in effect, mineral exploration and development merchant banking, is a business that privately has been very good to me over 45 years. At 71 years of age, I can't be everywhere at once, and frankly, I don't have the energy to do a lot of it on my own behalf, as much energy as I had in my 20s. So tell me something about the value proposition around merchant banking in the public market space and natural resources, and what you see your niche is.
Thank you, Rick. Well, I mean, we first of all, as you say, the merchant banking model is very well describes what we're doing. And people would also refer to it as a project incubator or prospect generator. Essentially, our job is to generate public companies or other crystallization, monetization events from a very exciting collection of early stage exploration licenses and exploration portfolios. So we have assets across the globe in North America, both in Canada and the US, and that's a large uranium footprint in Canada, and some tungsten, copper, gold assets in Nevada in the US. We're in Australia. We're in certain parts of Africa, Botswana specifically, and a small amount in Tanzania. And we're making a major investment now into Saudi Arabia and Oman, I should say, the Arabian Gulf. So we're taking our incubator model where we take early stage exploration opportunities, we add value to those through methodical, low cost exploration techniques, and that can mean geophysical surveying, it can mean early stage exploration drilling. We add value to those assets and we seek to monetize that value either by creating a public company, as we have done with Gold and Metal Resources, for example, holding those tungsten, gold and copper assets I mentioned in Nevada, or other transactions, such as potentially SPV transactions, which would crystallize the value for the Power Metal shareholders, or even outright sales, joint venture arrangements, and so on. So there is an exploration mining piece, and then there is the corporate finance piece. And I think if you want to know what is the niche, I think it is what we hope to is the ability to capitalize these assets properly, monetize them, but then take our opportunity to crystallize that value for shareholders when the opportunity is presented to us.
And how might shareholders themselves benefit directly from this process? Is the idea ultimately, well, what is the idea ultimately? You're building up, in effect, a whole bag of partial lottery tickets paid for by other people. How does your shareholder directly and indirectly benefit over time?
So there's two ways, essentially. I mean, you've just summarized it very nicely there, talking about the multiple tickets in the lottery. You've got across the portfolio, there are a huge number of opportunities for major commercial discoveries, which we all know in junior mining are the fundamental real value drivers of share prices. So that's number one. But number two is the fact that we have this diversified risk portfolio. So when we talk to investors about our story, a lot of people who are seeking the value proposition are looking at us on a sum of the parts basis. And as we have more of these value events, more of the IPOs coming to market, more SPV transactions with a price that's attached to them, the easier it is for people to calculate what is effectively an net asset value per share, compare that to the share price, and determine what the value is. Now, as we continue to deliver those solutions, those IPOs, and those IPOs then in turn perform, the sum of the parts valuation for Power Metal, which I believe is already sticking out pretty strongly, will become even more so, and that valuation gap, as these markets continue to recover, will close.
Sean, I described to a subscriber of mine not long ago the thesis around power metals from my own portfolio as saying the way that one gets in on the ground floor is by creating the ground floor. Was I speaking out of turn, or does that in effect crystallize the value proposition, particularly for North American shareholders?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we do go in a very early stage. I mean, the uranium assets in Canada, for example, we've staked these out from absolutely first principles. We've undertaken a certain amount of work, and we're currently in several conversations about how we can best monetize the value there for our shareholders. So we are the guys going in right at the ground floor, and seeking to add value from that. But also, in another sense, the ground floor is the valuation of Power Metal, and that's largely a function of the markets. The small cap markets have been quite difficult over the last 2 years. Liquidity has diminished quite substantially, which is why, and I hope this is of interest to your US investors, we've recently announced that we've entered the US OTC exchange, where people can find our shares quoted there and trade them much more easily on the US OTC than they would do through AIM in London. And we hope that as a combination of creating more visibility on that, and obviously coming to see you in Florida, we can encourage people to use that venue and look for our shares there.
Well, I thank you for that. AIM for Americans is in fact torture. But the truth is that your British domicile, to some extent, is intentional in the sense that AIM has been a fairly inefficient market, pardon me, for junior natural resource companies. And probably your vehicle is of specific use for retail investors in Great Britain to access global natural resource markets. Again, is that a correct assumption, or am I making this up?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, I share your view, to a large extent on AIM. I mean, I did a podcast recently, which, we talked a lot about, is this market properly functioning? The companies are doing their jobs where, we're acting on our objectives, we're delivering our objectives, we're communicating, those deliveries and so on, and yet the market is not providing, a liquid environment with a sensible cost of capital. So when one goes to raise more money, it's usually at a very big discount, and can be extremely punitive. So I think there are big questions as to how the markets can function more effectively, but equally I think that's also a cyclical factor. When people start talking about, well, we're going to give up and leave AIM and so on, I mean, a man with your experience would recognize that immediately as bottom of the market talk, I'm sure. But I think that but look, fundamentally, if you want people to buy your stock, you have to make it as easy as possible for them, which is why we've gone down the OTC route, and why we believe that'll be a great success. I think the incubator model is very well understood by US investors, perhaps better than it is in the UK, where typically the mining investor in the UK retail is looking for a single asset discovery story, not necessarily the multiple portfolio approach that we're taking with that sort of financial engineering merchant banking model. So I'm very confident that we will continue to have great engagement with US investors, and I'm certain that the upcoming trip will further enhance that.
Given that today is May 1st, 2024, for reference, and that the uranium markets are on fire, rather than focus on 20 assets, let's focus on one grouping of assets, which is to say your uranium assets. Tell me something. You've already described a bit about the genesis of these assets, but tell us something about the thinking that went into assembling the portfolio, the timing with regards to doing that, and the potential avenues for monetization, as both a discussion of the value within power, but also as an educational function for how it is that you do what you do?
So it's a great question because it's really the uranium portfolio very neatly describes what it is we're trying to do here. So we have 16 individual licenses within and around the Athabasca Basin in Saskatchewan, which I think investors will recognise as the premier address globally for uranium exploration and obviously production. It's in size wise, you're talking about roughly 1,000 square kilometres. We have multiple very high priority targets for drilling. Over the last field season, so we did the initial staking, and at very low cost. I mean, these are some of these licenses are small thousands of dollars to acquire. We've done a major fieldwork program over the portfolio over the last year, which has identified a number of very high quality drill targets for the next phase of exploration, including, for example, a major helium anomaly in one of our in-basin properties. And we've been looking at multiple options really for monetization. Now, we started staking these when uranium was $35 a pound, and no one was really that excited. There were a few sort of huge bulls, as there always are in any commodity, but they were a fairly lonely voice. As you said, it's now become much more of a mainstream argument as people not only focus on the energy transition point, but also other factors like the enormous demand shock that AI is going to create, and the fact that this is going to require carbon-free power generation. So uranium is right in focus. Obviously, through nuclear is now coming right into focus, and we suddenly find ourselves now with a very, very valuable portfolio that nobody cared about 2 years ago, and everybody cares about now. So we're looking at a number of potential avenues here. We've talked about a potential partial spin out of some of the properties into an IPO vehicle in the UK. We've also recently announced that we are having ongoing conversations with potential strategic investors looking for different value pathways, which could include some of the portfolio, the whole portfolio. Those conversations are ongoing, and obviously we're not able to say too much at the moment. But I think that by the time I see you in July, we will have a lot more clarity on that, and I'm very confident that we will have announced by then a very significant value event in the uranium portfolio. So it's something for investors to look forward to, I hope, and something we're very confident that we're going to be delivering in the short term.
Sean, in the brief amount of time that we have left, part of the process that you and I are going through with this interview is introducing Power to both the live and online attendees of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. Should investors and speculators care more to join you in this merchant banking activity, who at the company should they contact, and where might they contact this person?
Well, that will be me, and I'm very happy to engage directly with investors at any time. We have through our website, through our social media channels, we have an info@powermetalresources.com email address, which is constantly monitored, and we're very keen to engage directly with investors. So if anybody our contact details are all on the website, please get in touch directly, leave me a message, give me a call, send me an email. And I very much look forward to engaging directly. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, I'm not a geologist by background. I'm a finance guy, and I'm a salesman in a manner of speaking, and I love talking about Power Metal Resources. So, any opportunity I have to tell our story, whether it's to a group or to individuals, really keen to take that. So, I'm very much the point man for all of our investor relations activity, and very keen to do that.
Sean, thank you for your efforts on behalf of shareholders, including me. Thank you, too, for your ongoing support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. It'll be a pleasure to host you in Boca Raton.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks very much, Rick.